If staff doesn't object, I'm going to gavel in. Good morning. This hearing of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will come to order. We are here to consider 4 important nominees. Ambassador Laura Holgate to be the U.S. representative to the Vienna office of the UN and the U.S. representative to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Karen McClellan to be the U.S. ambassador to Brunei, Dar es Salaam. David Young to be U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Malawi, and Claire Pier to be the U.S. ambassador to the Republic of Madagascar and to the Union Comoros. Congratulations to the 4 of you on your nominations. Our thanks for your willingness to serve, and to the members of your family, because this is a family sacrifice as well. I understand that our distinguished former colleague, Senator Nunn, is here to introduce Ambassador Holgate this morning, so we will turn to him first before any opening statements. Senator Nunn.
Thank you very much, Chairman Schatz. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Haggerty, Senator Cardin, and others on the Foreign Relations Committee. I am honored to present Laura Holgate to this committee, and I strongly recommend that she be confirmed as our nation's ambassador to the Vienna office of the United Nations and the International Atomic Energy Agency. Mr. Chairman, our nation is fortunate to have a nominee with the experience, the knowledge, the diplomatic skills that Laura would bring to this important role if confirmed by the Senate. Laura has served more than 30 years in critical national security positions, both inside and outside government. She has broad experience, she has skilled leadership, Laura has sound judgment, and she has an international reputation as a very capable diplomat and persuasive advocate of U.S. priorities. She also brings a background and spirit of nonpartisanship. I know that firsthand, Mr. Chairman, because I've worked closely with her and she has worked so closely with senators and staff over the years. So, Mr. Chairman and Senator Haggerty, I've known Laura for almost all of her professional career. She was part of the Ash Carter Harvard University team that worked closely with my partner, Senator Dick Lugar, and with me to persuade Congress to create what became known as the Nunn-Lugar Cooperative Threat Reduction Program. Laura later led this program at the Pentagon and was part of the team that achieved one of the most significant global security steps of our era. Belarus, Kazakhstan, and Ukraine getting rid of all of their nuclear weapons and joining the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. So Laura has been at the forefront of policy innovation as well as implementation to reduce nuclear, biological, and chemical threats for really her entire career. When the Nuclear Threat Initiative was created in the year 2001 by Ted Turner and by me, I knew Laura was one of the most capable people that we could ever find. So I persuaded her to become one of the first employees of NTI. Laura's strong relationships with colleagues in the U.S. Department and agencies on Capitol Hill and really around the world helped her work with others to improve nuclear security and keep weapons and weapons usable material, most important, out of the hands of terrorists globally. At NTI, Laura led a number of international threat reduction projects that helped make the world safer, and I'm just going to mention a couple. In 2001, she directed NTI's important role in the removal of 2 bombs worth of highly enriched uranium from a poorly secured facility in Serbia. This project, led by the U.S. government with cooperation from Serbia, Russia, and the Iaea, laid the foundation for the U.S. government's program known as the Global Threat Reduction Initiative. Most recently, she helped produce our NTI's Nuclear Security Index, which is recognized globally, I believe, as the premier open source resource and tool for tracking and improving the security of some of the deadliest materials in the world. Importantly, Mr. Chairman and Senator Haggerty, Laura has continued her lifelong commitment to broadening the number of talented women in the nuclear security field, enhancing our national and our global security. Laura knows that giving women a fair shake strengthens our national security and also strengthens our nation. Laura served from 2009 to 2016 at the National Security Council, where she exhibited strong leadership in coordinating U.S. government efforts to reduce weapon of mass destruction threats and prevent catastrophic terrorism. In particular, she led preparations for the 4 nuclear security summits under President Obama, which made significant progress in securing nuclear materials globally. We don't get much encouraging news, but Mr. Chairman, over the last 20 or so years under both parties, both presidents, Republicans and Democrats, we've moved from 50 nations with nuclear material known as highly enriched uranium to 23 nations. Still a lot of challenges, but Laura has played a huge role in all of that. In conclusion, Chairman Schatz and Senator Hagerty and members of the committee, I'm confident that Laura is fully prepared to serve in this critical role. I strongly support her nomination by President Biden, and I urge the committee's support. And of course, I urge strongly her confirmation by the full Senate. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator Nunn, and thank you for your public service and leadership over many, many years. We'll now turn to my opening remarks, followed by Senator Hagerty. Ambassador Holgate previously served as the U.S. representative to the Iaea and Vienna office of the UN in 2016. She also served as director for weapons of mass destruction, terrorism, and threat reduction on the NSC, where she led the preparation of 4 nuclear security summits. The Iaea is facing a number of challenges to one of its core missions, ensuring that states comply with their non-proliferation treaty commitments to maintain only peaceful nuclear programs. Iran is currently blocking Iaea access to many of its nuclear facilities, and North Korea moves ahead with its nuclear capabilities. Ambassador Holgate brings a wealth of experience to this important role, and we look forward to hearing about how she plans to engage the Iaea on non-proliferation matters and the peaceful use of nuclear science and technology to solve today's challenges, including climate change. I'm pleased to see Karen McClelland, a career Foreign Service officer, nominated as our next ambassador to Brunei. In her distinguished career at State, she has served in senior level positions in the Indo-Pacific and Europe, as well as on oceans and international environmental issues and commercial and business affairs, all of which position her well for this assignment. In particular, her background working energy issues as we seek to work with Brunei to transition its economy to a zero carbon future is invaluable. I look forward to hearing her thoughts on that issue today. I'm also interested in her views on Brunei's approach to trafficking in persons and LGBTQ issues under Sharia law, issues this committee continues to monitor closely. Next, we have David Young. David Young is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service. He currently serves as the Chargé d'Affaires at the U.S. Embassy in Lusaka, Zambia, and previously served as the Chargé d'Affaires at the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria, South Africa, and Deputy Chief of Mission at the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, Nigeria. His extensive experience in Southern Africa will serve him well if confirmed as our next ambassador to Malawi. At a time when many African countries are experiencing democratic backsliding, Malawi stands out as having achieved a democratic transition thanks to the vigilance of its citizens and the independence of its institutions. Still, Malawi faces serious challenges, including widespread poverty, corruption, and the threat of climate change and natural disasters, such as Cyclone Idai in 2019. And despite meeting its goals to control HIV/AIDS, Malawi still has one of the world's 10 highest HIV prevalence rates. I look forward to hearing how, with sufficient engagement and assistance, the United States can help Malawi turn its recent democratic success into long-term stability and prosperity. Lastly, Claire Pierangelo is a career member of the Senior Foreign Service. She currently serves as Principal Officer at the Consulate General in Lagos, Nigeria. Madagascar is facing difficult circumstances, and our embassy urgently needs an experienced diplomat like Claire Pierangelo. High-stakes competition between political elites has dangerously destabilized Madagascar, with alleged coup and assassination plots pushing the country to the brink of a political crisis. Even more alarming is Madagascar's vulnerability to climate change. Southern Madagascar is on the edge of a deadly famine, one of the first to be caused by climate change rather than man-made conflict, according to the UN. The Union of Comoros, where Ms. Pier Angelo would also represent in the United States if confirmed, faces governance challenges such as corruption and authoritarianism. It is becoming vulnerable to climate change, which is spurring irregular migration and affecting access to food and to water. I hope to hear how the United States can help these two countries to confront these challenges. So while the four of you have a number of challenges ahead, I'm confident that your knowledge and experience will serve you well as you take them upon confirmation. And now turn to the ranking member, Senator Hagerty, for his opening comments.
It's an honor to be with both of you. Mr. Chairman, I also want to thank the nominees for being here today. As you said, it's a great commitment and it's a family commitment, and I appreciate and congratulate all of you for your nomination. I'd like to start with the nominee for representative to the United States to the International Energy Agency. This position has a unique responsibility in advancing the security of the United States by promoting the safe, secure, and peaceful use of nuclear technologies. I'd like to share just a little bit of my own background from this perspective. Not long after my arrival in Tokyo as the U.S. ambassador to Japan, North Korea tested a thermonuclear weapon. Highlighted for me the continued challenges and threats that we face from nuclear proliferation around the world. The United States and our allies need to work very closely together on this, and I look forward to hearing from the nominee about how best to prevent states from diverting their civil nuclear energy programs to military purposes as we approach the 21st century. Next, I'd like to turn to the nomination to be the ambassador to Brunei, Dar es Salaam. The United States and Brunei work closely together on bilateral and regional agenda to tackle some of the most pressing issues, particularly in light of Brunei's role in ASEAN. I look forward to hearing from Karen on ways to advance the U.S.-Brunei relationship. I've had the opportunity to work with Karen in the past. I look forward to hearing from her today. I'd also like to turn to the nominee to be ambassador to Malawi. The United States continues to partner with Malawi in order to advance accountable, democratic governance, to foster private sector growth, and to advance health, education, energy, and environmental sectors in Malawi. I'm interested in hearing from the nominee on these subjects when we get to them. Last, I'd like to focus on the nominee to be the ambassador to Madagascar. And as Madagascar continues to play a transition toward a free democracy, the United States will play a critical role as one of the largest providers of assistance to Madagascar. I look forward to hearing from our nominee about ways to bolster the partnership between the United States and Madagascar. Mr. Chairman, I yield my time back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Hagerty. All of our nominees will be provided an opportunity to give their testimony. We ask them to be as brief as possible. We're about to enter into a series of 5 votes to keep the government open so that if we can do this expeditiously, we will not have to hand the gavel back and forth. So we'll start our testimony from our nominees. We ask you to summarize your statement in 5 minutes or even less. All of your full statements will be included in the record without objection, and we'll proceed in the order that you appear on the hearing notice, beginning with Ambassador Holgate.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Hagerty, and members of the committee, I'm honored to appear before you today to serve as the President's nominee to serve as the U.S. Permanent Representative to the United Nations, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and other international organizations in Vienna. I'm grateful to President Biden and to Secretary Blinken for their confidence that they have placed in me, and I am especially grateful to Senator Nunn for his mentorship over the years and for his generous remarks this morning. This is a critical moment for the United States' interest in the Iaea and other UN offices in Vienna. Iran, nuclear energy, space, cybercrime, climate change, the opioid epidemic, none of these challenges can be adequately met by the United States acting alone. We helped create the UN system to align the interests and combine the strengths of multiple nations to address global challenges, and I firmly believe that these institutions are more necessary today than ever. My experience inside and outside the United States government has prepared me to play this vital role in Vienna. If I am confirmed, In this position, I pledge to strengthen and broaden the partnerships with other member states and with the Vienna-based UN agencies, and further develop the coalitions that we need to achieve U.S. priorities. Key among these goals is to work to make sure the IAEA has the mandate and the capacity to address evolving challenges and the greater demands being placed upon it. The IAEA must have the technical, human, and financial resources it needs to implement global safeguards, including in critical areas such as Iran, and to be prepared to return to North Korea should a monitoring agreement be reached there. The IAEA's Directorates of Nuclear Energy Safety and Security and Safeguards must work better together to guide and monitor the safe and secure expansion of next generation nuclear energy in a way that helps address climate change without increasing nuclear risks. If confirmed, I will press international organizations in Vienna to continue to make progress on management reforms, transparency, and accountability. I will encourage intensified efforts towards achieving greater gender and regional diversity and greater representation of U.S. citizens, especially at senior and policy-making levels. And I will revitalize the International Gender Champions chapter, which I helped found during my previous appointment. The achievement of these and other U.S. priorities will face the growing influence of Russia and China in multilateral organizations. And I believe the U.S. must be even more present, active, and visible in these fora. And if confirmed, I will strengthen the essential relationships with traditional diplomatic partners and work hard to build new connections with countries who are eager to see U.S. leadership on the issues they care about. Mr. Chairman, I am eager to return to the post I held so briefly and optimistic about the opportunities to re-engage the diplomatic and UN community, many of whom I know well. I am grateful to this committee for its attention and to my family, friends, and colleagues observing these proceedings online for their love, support, and inspiration as I pursue a return to public service. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ms. McClellan.
Thank you very much. Chairman Schatz, Ranking Member Haggerty, and distinguished members of the committee, I am honored to be here today before you as President Biden's nominee to serve as the U.S. Ambassador to Brunei Darussalam. If confirmed, I look forward to working closely with this committee to advance U.S. interests in Brunei. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank my family, friends, mentors, and colleagues whose support and guidance has been critical throughout my career. Most importantly, I want to recognize my daughter Marlo, who has shared this adventure with me for the last 13 years, and my parents, Robert and Catherine. Without their constant love, support, and encouragement, I would not be here today. The U.S.-Brunei relationship has flourished over the years as we continuously work together to promote a more stable, peaceful, and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. We have enjoyed more than 170 years of close cooperation since our countries signed the Treaty of Peace, Friendship, Commerce, and Navigation in 1850. The United States was also among the first countries to establish diplomatic relations with Brunei after it became fully independent from the United Kingdom in 1984. Our partnership with Brunei and our support for ASEAN centrality remain a cornerstone of our Indo-Pacific policy. The United States works closely with Brunei, especially during its role as the ASEAN chair in 2021. Brunei's time leading ASEAN coincided with the two most acute challenges to face ASEAN since its inception, the coup d'etat in Burma and COVID-19. Brunei has been a steady and constructive partner on both issues. Our shared commitment to addressing some of the region's most pressing challenges will continue to yield cooperation, including on pandemic response, confronting the climate crisis, and resolving the conflict brought on by the coup and violence in Burma. The robust security, economic, and people-to-people ties between our two countries are at the core of our relationship with Brunei. Our defense relationship is described in our Memorandum of Understanding on Defense Cooperation, and our military-to-military ties have become a cornerstone of the U.S.-Brunei bilateral relationship. Prior to the pandemic, Brunei conveyed a strong desire to increase participation in military exercise and engagements with the United States, particularly with respect to enhancing maritime domain awareness. While many in-person defense exchanges have either been postponed or canceled due to the COVID-19 restrictions, Brunei remains committed to our defensive partnership, as witnessed by its recent purchase of U.S. origin defense equipment and its continued participation in our bilateral maritime exercises. We have a shared interest in maintaining peace and stability, unimpeded lawful commerce, and respect for international law, including freedoms of navigation and overflight and other lawful activities in the South China Sea. If confirmed, I will look for opportunities to strengthen our partnership in these areas with the Bruneian government and work with Brunei to uphold the rules-based international order that has underpinned the region's security and prosperity. We have also fostered a positive economic relationship with Brunei and enjoy a robust trade in goods such as aircraft, machinery, technology, iron, steel, and others. U.S. goods and services trade with Brunei totaled an estimated $262 million in 2020. We have frequently worked with Brunei and other regional economies to lower barriers to trade and investment across the Indo-Pacific region, leveling the playing field for U.S. companies and supporting job growth at home. If confirmed, I hope to further expand our bilateral trade relationship and advance an economic agenda that promotes shared prosperity, leverages economic potential, and builds inclusive and resilient economies, especially as the entire region works toward pandemic recovery. If there is one thing the past year and a half has taught us, it is the true value of personal relationships. Our cultural, educational, and people-to-people ties with Brunei are critically important to advance both mutual understanding between our nations and our bilateral relationship. In a country with limited exposure to the United States, engaging the next generation of Bruneian leaders and changemakers is vital. Prior to the pandemic, approximately 50 Bruneians participated annually in U.S.-sponsored exchange programs, including the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, the International Visitor Leaders Program, and Fulbright Program, and other professional and academic exchanges. The U.S. Embassy in Brunei also maintains a robust network of more than 300 alumni of U.S. government exchange programs and works regularly with Bruneian civil society to collaborate on addressing issues of mutual concern, such as empowering women, promoting entrepreneurship, and protecting the environment, among other issues. If confirmed, I intend to leverage these exchange programs and other initiatives to broaden our people-to-people ties in the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity to appear here today, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McClellan. Mr. Young.
Chairman Schatz, Ranking Member Haggerty, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm honored to appear before you today as President Biden's nominee to be the next ambassador to the Republic of Malawi. I appreciate the confidence the President and my colleagues at the Department of State have shown in me through this nomination. And if confirmed, I look forward to working with you and other members of Congress and staff to advance U.S. interests in Malawi. As I appear before you today, I wish to acknowledge the steadfast support I've received throughout my career from my wonderful life partner, my wife, Diane Weiss-Young, and our children, Paul and Sarah, as well as my brothers, Keith and Terry, and in-laws, Howard, Ann, and Greg Wise. The inspiration and love I've received from my family have inspired my public service across 32 years working for the Department of State. The United States has a wide range of overlapping interests in Malawi, from strengthening democracy and promoting respect for human rights, to support for market economics and inclusive growth, from investments in health and education to support for the country's peacekeeping efforts across the African continent. Our assistance programs mirror these interests, and our governance programming bolsters the country's democracy and helps our Malawian partners promote respect for human rights, combat corruption, and promote better performance by government agencies. Our bilateral trade and investment engagements hold promise to help lift Malawians out of poverty and to help American companies interested in investment. Malawi today stands at a high point in its international profile and regional leadership. Its independent judiciary overturned the flawed 2019 presidential election, and the victory of President Lazarus Chakwera in 2020 marked only the second election rerun on the continent and the first to unseat an incumbent. The peaceful transition of power that followed was a testament to Malawians' commitment to democratic ideals. The primary responsibility of any ambassador is the protection of American citizens and American interests. In Malawi, that now includes joining the global fight to combat the spread of COVID-19. And for decades, we have supported Malawi's efforts to combat HIV/AIDS. In so doing, we have saved millions of lives, and we have become the partner of choice for health programming. I was pleased to see the recent arrival in Lilongwe of more than 300,000 U.S.-provided Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine doses. Malawi's heavy dependence on agriculture offers opportunities for U.S. government and private sector engagement. American expertise can invest and advance efforts towards crop diversification, generate greater revenue, and fight poverty through improved yields. Having worked on African issues for the past decade and with more than 5 years service in Southern Africa, I'm also cognizant of the worker exploitation occurring in this sector. If confirmed, I will work with Malawian, American, and international partners to combat human trafficking and other human rights violations. The United States has enjoyed decades of close collaboration with the Malawian military, and their defense forces' apolitical posture following last year's, the 2019 election had a huge impact on the transition to democracy. Malawian soldiers contribute to peacekeeping operations in some of the world's most dangerous places, and if confirmed, I hope to find new ways for Malawi to further enshrine itself as a net exporter of security. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the opportunity to appear before you today, and I'd be honored to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Ms. Pier.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm honored to appear before you today as President Biden's nominee as Ambassador to the Republic of Madagascar and to the Union of the Comoros. Please let me thank my family and my friends who have supported me throughout my career. My parents, the late Dr. Anthony and Mrs. Rose Cabino Perangelo, my beloved sons, Luca and Nicholas, who have been my intrepid travel companions and my most avid supporters, and my brothers and their families and my friends who have always made sure that we had a welcoming home to come home to. Mr. Chairman, I've served across 4 continents. I've led teams working on economic reform, public health crises, violent extremism, radicalism, terrorism, and the challenges posed by the lack of democratic institutions and the rule of law. As a San Diego native, I was an avid student of the challenges of wildlife conservation through the work of the San Diego Zoo Global Wildlife Alliance, and I have carried that passion with me throughout my career. If confirmed to be concurrently Ambassador to Madagascar and Ambassador to the Union of the Comoros, I will safeguard U.S. interests, and I will strengthen our relationship with the peoples and the governments in these nations. We enjoy positive relationships with Madagascar and Comoros as we partner with them to address their many domestic, regional, and global challenges. We have an important opportunity in the next few years to support the Malagasy and the Comoronian people in their upcoming presidential elections in order to reinforce democratic principles, to advocate for full and open political participation, and to press for the protection of human rights. Strong democratic institutions and stability are the precursors to resilient and sustainable development. If confirmed, my team and I would support the independent democratic aspirations of Madagascar and Comoros and would seek to counter malign influences and disinformation. These 2 nations sit at the maritime crossroads between the Indian Ocean, Africa, and the Atlantic, and they deserve our increased strategic attention. The sea lanes linking these regions are an important geostrategic maritime transit route. The region's largest deep water port is situated at the northern tip of Madagascar. Oil and gas reserves in the area, including potential large reserves off of the coast of Madagascar, have attracted interest and investment from countries who do not always prioritize these nations' long-term security interests. Stability in the region is also threatened by climate change, creating serious humanitarian, economic, and environmental crises. An extended drought in southern Madagascar has thrown 1.4 million people into food insecurity and has caused internal migration that threatens unique ecosystems. COVID-19 has brought significant health and economic challenges, and there is an urgent need for additional vaccine doses. Of course, if confirmed, encouraging U.S. trade, protecting U.S. investment, and promoting greater economic self-sufficiency would be top priorities. We have robust development assistance programs and collaborate closely with other international partners. If confirmed, I can commit to advancing these efforts as well as combating threats to Madagascar's biodiversity. I would look forward to working with the Peace Corps to resume its historically vibrant programs in Madagascar and Comoros. Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member, and distinguished members of the committee, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. If confirmed, I would serve proudly as the U.S. Ambassador to the Republic of Madagascar and to the Union of the Comoros. I welcome advice from you and your staff on United States interests in this region. And one of the highlights of my foreign service career has always been facilitating the visits of members of Congress in the countries where I served, and I would hope to host you and or your staff in the future. And I welcome any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you to all of our testifiers. Before I start my own questions, I have some general questions that speak to the importance that this committee places on responsiveness by all officials in the executive branch. I'd like to ask each of you to provide a simple yes or no answer to the following questions. Do you agree to appear before this committee and make officials from your office available to the committee and designated staff when invited?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you commit to keeping the committee fully and currently informed about the activities under your purview?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you commit to engaging in meaningful consultation when policies are being developed and not just providing notification after the fact?
Yes.
Yes.
Finally, do you commit to promptly responding to requests for briefings and information requested by the committee and its designated staff?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. My first question is for Ambassador Holgate. Ambassador, one of the most difficult issues that the IAEA has to manage is verifying and monitoring Iran's nuclear program. The Director General of the IAEA said in a recent report that Iran is stonewalling its investigation into past activities and jeopardizing important monitoring work. Can you talk about how the United States can best support the IAEA's effort to monitor Iran?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree that this is a critical requirement and important mission of the U.S. team, both here in Washington and in Vienna. And I know that the team has been working very closely with Director General Grossi to be sure he has everything he needs to do that in the way of political as well as financial and technical support. I think it's critical for if I were to be confirmed, for the U.S. Ambassador in Vienna to lead coordination with the other diplomatic community there in Vienna and to provide support and information as requested by the agency to help them do their work. This is obviously a whole of government effort that is led here in Washington. I haven't been fully briefed on the details of the U.S. Policies and decision making there, but I know what it's like to be the Vienna face of those policies, and I, if confirmed, I am fully ready to play that role.
Thank you very much. The IAEA's Peaceful Uses Initiative has helped more than 150 countries harness nuclear science to address real-world challenges. We've seen radio tracers help track marine plastics, radio-labeled molecules help to improve vaccines against infectious diseases, and climate is another area where there's a lot of potential, not just in terms of nuclear energy. Can you talk about how the IAEA can help countries to use nuclear science and technology to combat the climate crisis?
The Chairman, I think that's a really important and fascinating topic. When I was in Vienna before, that was my very first visit off-site, was to the UN, the IAEA laboratory in Cybersdorf outside Vienna, where they are undertaking this research. And the U.S. has been at the forefront of raising funds to update that laboratory. The new so-called Renewal Lab is now operating and has significantly increased its capability to train member states representatives in some of the technologies that you've described, whether sterile insect technique or isotopic tracing or the full range of application of nuclear science. I'm proud that the U.S. government has been supportive of this effort through the Peaceful Uses Initiative and through its voluntary contributions to the technical cooperation budget. And if confirmed, I would continue to advocate for such contributions and to make sure that those who receive the contributions understand that they come from the United States and that they represent support by the United States of their development ambitions.
Thank you very much. Ambassador Haggerty.
Thank you, Chairman Schatz. And I'd like to come back to the first question that you brought up with Ms. Holgate pertaining to Iran and their malign behavior. The Biden administration seeking to rejoin the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. It's an agreement that did not receive the advice and consent of the United States Senate. It's an agreement that I feel is deeply flawed. Since 2018, the IAEA, which is the world's nuclear watchdog, has continued to investigate new evidence of undeclared nuclear materials and activities in Iran. In 2019 and in 2020, the IAEA found evidence of undeclared uranium particles in 3 sites in Iran, which could indicate potential covert Iranian nuclear activities. So far, Iran has stalled the IAEA's investigation, including their access to nuclear sites. Iran has removed and covered up evidence, and Iran has provided so-called explanations that the nuclear watchdog deems not technically credible. Under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, Iran is required to declare to IAEA inspectors its use of nuclear material, its sites where it uses such material, and sites where it carries out sensitive nuclear activities. And I want to be clear here, Iran's obligations to the IAEA are completely separate from the nuclear deal, and they endure regardless of what happens with the Iran nuclear deal status. So Ambassador Holgate, I'd like to come back and just be clear. Do you agree that Iran is actively frustrating, even stonewalling the IAEA's ongoing investigation of undeclared Iranian nuclear activities?
Ranking Member Haggerty, I do understand that that's the case.
I'm glad you agree. Do you believe that Iran is in compliance with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty?
I think the issues that are going on with both current and historical activities create grave concerns about Iran's commitment to safeguards and to peaceful uses, and that's why the United States has been supporting Director General Grossi's efforts to return Iran to a compliant state with its safeguards requirements.
Well, I certainly think what you're saying is that they're not in compliance. They certainly can't be in compliance if they're not willing to answer IAEA questions on undeclared nuclear activities. Would you agree with that?
Sir, I have not been briefed on the intelligence details of the current concerns about Iran, so I would hesitate to draw a strong conclusion.
Let's move on. The IAEA's Director General has issued several reports on Iran that make it clear that the IAEA has serious, outstanding concerns regarding possible undeclared nuclear material and the activities that are taking place in Iran today. And due to Iran's lack of cooperation, the fact that Iran is limiting verification and access by international nuclear inspectors, the IAEA's Director General has reported that the agency is having a difficult time ensuring that Iran's nuclear program is exclusively peaceful. And in a recent development, the IAEA has said last Sunday that Iran has failed to honor the terms of a deal struck 2 weeks ago to let international nuclear inspectors into Iran to access and repair equipment for monitoring nuclear materials and activities. Again, the activities that likely are being diverted to military purposes. Iran and the IAEA have made this recent deal as Iran faced the prospect of a formal censure by the IAEA Board of Governors for its obstructionism. So, Ambassador Holgate, if you're confirmed, do you commit to advocating for the United States to use its voice and vote on the 35-nation IAEA Board of Governors in order to hold Iran accountable for its ongoing noncompliance with its nuclear obligations and to censure Iran for repeatedly frustrating the international watchdog's ongoing investigation of Iran's undeclared nuclear activities?
Senator Haggerty, I can certainly say that if confirmed, I will use the U.S. voice and vote in the Board of Governors to promote a full return of Iran to IAEA safeguards compliance and to make sure the Director General has the tools he needs to do that.
Well, I appreciate that. I think it's incumbent upon the United States to hold egregious proliferators like Iran accountable. The position that you'll be going into will provide that opportunity, and I certainly hope and expect that you will use every bit of United States influence to make certain that we hold actors like Iran and their malign behavior to full account. Thank you. I yield my time back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Senator Cardin.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. And to all 4 of our nominees, thank you for your careers of public service. We very much appreciate your willingness to continue to serve our country. You all are certainly very well experienced and qualified for the positions that you have been nominated to. Ms. Holgate, I'm going to continue with the IAEA for one moment, if I might. In July, I did have an opportunity to be in Vienna, and I did meet with the Director General Grossi, and I must tell you, I'm impressed by his leadership at the Iaea. But I want to come at this from a little bit different position. He made an interesting observation, and I want to get your view on this. That the IAEA itself, you talked about having the capacity to deal with, for example, the JCPOA. And he pointed out that the IAEA was constructed based upon member countries being friendly or cooperative to how the IAEA would operate, that they would be willing partners. Well, obviously, Iran is not a willing partner. So my question to you, and it follows up a little bit on Senator Haggerty's point, do we need to look at some changes at the IAE, recognizing that Iran is not an honest broker here, that they'll never be an honest broker, and that we need to have the authorities within IAEA that would not necessarily be needed in a country that is more cooperative?
Thank you, Senator Cardin. That's a very interesting question, and one that I have not yet discussed with the State Department colleagues that I would be working with if confirmed. The IAEA is nested within the broader UN system, and the responsibilities for actions, mandatory actions, are stated with the UN Security Council. The IAEA Board of Governors has the opportunity to refer issues to the Security Council when they are not available to be addressed within the mandate of the agency. I think there are interesting opportunities with the upcoming Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty Review Conference to consider whether the underlying treaty that governs these issues can be strengthened and accountability tools can be added or improved. And I would look forward to participating in any conversations around those topics if I am confirmed in this role.
Would you commit to this committee that when you are confirmed, that you will come back to us with your evaluation as to the capacity of the IAEA to be able to enforce agreements in regards to Iran, so that we have an honest, it can be done in an open or closed session, but that you would share with us your belief as how effective the IAEA can be under its arrangement under the United Nations in monitoring the activities of Iran?
Senator, if I'm confirmed, I would be happy to make that commitment to you in this
Thank you. I appreciate that. Ms. Pier, Angelo, I want to talk a little bit about Madagascar and also Comoros. Both countries have significant corruption problems. President Biden has indicated that corruption is a core national concern of the United States, a national security interest concern of the United States. We are asking those missions that are in countries that have significant challenges on corruption to build up their internal capacity within the mission to deal with corruption. So do we have your commitment that this will be a high priority if you're confirmed, to be able to have the capacity within your mission to understand the challenges in the countries and to be able to provide technical help and assistance for anti-corruption measures?
Senator Cardin, I would look forward to that if confirmed. Fundamentally, accountable institutions sustained by a commitment to the rule of law, transparency, are essential to creating a climate, whether you are talking about political stability or economic stability. We need to have that as a precursor. So our mission, I know, is working very diligently on those issues. And sir, we would welcome any additional resources. And I certainly would commit that once I am on the ground, if confirmed, I will do my own personal assessment with my team to assess what we need and how we would deploy it. So thank you, sir. That would be very welcome.
And I'll just end on this. There's legislation that our committee has already acted on that would require our missions to rate how well countries are doing in regards to fighting corruption based upon a tier rating system similar to what we use in trafficking in humans. I would ask that you help us and support us in getting that type of legislation to the finish line. I recognize you won't have a direct role to play in this. Believe me, I understand that. But if we have that in place, then it makes it easier in your bilateral relationship to point out that this is a policy requirement that requires attention in every country the United States have missions. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back my time.
Thank you, Senator Cardin. Do we have Senator Van Hollen online? Senator Booker? Any other members of the Foreign Relations Committee wishing to ask the nominees any questions?
Maybe over.
Ranking Member Haggerty, anything else?
Just to applaud your chairmanship today, Senator Schatz. I appreciate all the candidates being with us. I'm going to submit a number of additional questions through the QFR process, and I want to congratulate you on a very well-conducted hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to work with you, and thanks to the staff of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, as well as my staff and everybody for being willing to serve, and especially their families. If there are no more questions for our witnesses, the record will remain open until the close of business on Friday, October 1st for questions. I would urge the nominees, if you get questions for the records, to answer them fully and expeditiously so that we can consider your nominations at the business meeting and get you marked up and get you confirmed as quickly as possible. So thanks to the committee for your willingness to serve. This hearing is adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, and to all the members of the committee. Thank you for your time.